place, the dwelling places of Israel, as we join together in prayer this evening, we take a deep breath in and allow that breath to fill our bodies, to feel the breath that animates our souls, to let our bodies relax, to let the stress and the strains of the week drop away at the door of our sanctuaries, our holy spaces that we are gathered in tonight. To breathe in shlemut, wholeness, peace, joy. To let our mouths fill with the breath of air and the sound of song, with praises, with chants of joy. Let's begin together with the words of Psalm 133. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat nashim achim gam yachad, on page 176. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, Shabbat achim gam yachad. As we let Shabbat into our lives, as we enter into this joyous day of the week, we fill our homes with light. The light of the Shabbat candles, the light of this day of peace, the light of the eyes of those that we are gathered with. So I invite you to join with me on page 21 with reading Gimel, and then we'll light our Shabbat lights together. To light candles in all the worlds, that is Shabbat. To light Shabbat candles is a soul leap pregnant with potential into a splendid sea, in it the mystery of the fire of sunset. Lighting the candles transforms my room into a river of light. My heart sets in an emerald waterfall. So I invite you to join with me as we light our Shabbat lights together, as we light those lights as Jews around the world are welcoming Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivonu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. On page 24, we'll sing together the very beginning of the words of Yedid Nefesh, this beautiful piyut, this poem, a beautiful love song to God on Shabbat, to the divine that is present in the world. It says, heart's delight, source of mercy. I leap like a deer to stand in awe before you. Yedid Nefesh Arachman, Yedid Nefesh Arachman, Meshach Adecha, El Ritzoncha, Meshach Adecha, El Ritzoncha, Yarutz Adecha, Kemoya, Ishtachave. Please join me on page 27 with the words of reading Dalit, a beautiful poem called Erev Shabbat by Danny Siegel. Who am I that she should wish to spend the day with me? I try out my strengths, I cook, I move dust, casually insensitive to all the songs, reminding me that she, the queen, in diamond, ruby, emerald glow tiara would come to grace my table. She comes no matter how the week was spent in joy or in silliness, yet she comes, and I am her host, laying a linen flower tablecloth that is white, that is all the colors of the rainbow. Come, my Shabbat queen, embodiment of worlds, to be your gracious kindness is our breath of life, and though we once, twice, all too often fail to say, how beautiful your cape, how lovely your hair, your Shekhinah eyes, we will not always be so lax, apathetic to your grace, your presence. Touch us again this week with your most unique love's tenderness, and we shall sing to you our songs, dance our dances in your honor, and sigh for you our sighs of longing, peace, and hope. A reminder that Shabbat is here. No matter how we prepare or don't prepare for it, it's a gift that comes each week. That gift of Shabbat. So we welcome Shabbat in the words of Lecha Dodi, page 29.
Ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 Lekot Kala, ya la 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 B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat Mikabla, ya la 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 Lecha Dodi, ya la 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 Lekot Kala, ya la 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 B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat Mikabla. Shamor v'zachor v'tibor echad yishmi'anu el ha'miuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad v'shem hu tiferet b'vid hilah ya la 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 Shabbat l'chut v'nelcha ki mekor ha'beracha merosh mikerem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshava tehila Shabbat, B'nai Shabbat Nikabla. It's ordering, Ki Ba'orei, Uri, 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 Shir Aberi. Shabbat Nikabla Moi v'shalom Ateret bala Gam b'simcha Solel Toch emunei Hamsegula Shabbat Nikabla Shabbat Nikabla
Page 34. Echa ashir al yom v'layla ve'elohim hu yitzaram. How can I sing of day and night when it is God who formed them? How can I sing of heaven and earth when it is God who decreed them? How can I sing of mountains and hills when it is God who planted them? How can I sing of seas and deserts when it is God who begot them? And how can I sing of earth and its fullness when it is God who bade them be? I shall sing to God who fashioned all and is beyond all. It is to God I shall sing. We rise physically or spiritually for the words of Baruch Hu, page 36.
Baruch
If you're standing, you're invited to be seated as we join together in the prayer for creation, Ma'ariv Aravim, the top of page 37 in the English. We praise you, eternal our God, whose presence fills creation. Your word brings on the evening twilight. You open the gates of dawn with wisdom, and with foresight you make times pass and seasons change. Your plan sets the courses of stars in the sky, creating day and night, turning light into darkness and darkness into light. You make the day fade away and bring on the night, separating day and night. You rule the hosts of heaven. We praise you, Eternal One, who brings on the evening twilight. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha, Ata, Amcha, Ata, Torah u'mitzvot, Chukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadta, Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shachmeinu v'kumenu, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki ein chayenu be'orech yameinu, u'bahem negei yom v'layla, negei yom v'layla, be'avatcha tasir, nimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
We rise physically or spiritually. Page 40, you'll find the words of Shema and what follows it in the Torah, the words of Ve'ahavta. Shema Yisrael, listen, O Israel. Hear, O Israel, pay attention. God is one. Our world is one.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Malchutav, Le'olam va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchutav, Le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha, ve'ayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta b'ham, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
If you're standing, you are invited to be seated and join with me in the meditation, Bet, page 42. I, Miriam, stand at the sea and turn to face the desert, stretching endless and still. My arms reach for the sky, and I want to sing the song rising inside me. My mouth open, I stop. Where are the words? Where the melody? In a moment of panic, my vision goes blank. Can I take a step without knowing a destination? Will I falter? Will I fall? Will the ground sink away from under me? The song still unformed. How can I sing? To take the first step. To sing a new song is to close one's eyes and to dive into unknown waters. For a moment, knowing nothing, risking all, but then to discover the waters are friendly, the ground is firm, and the song rises again. We sing the same song, the same words that our ancestors sang at the shore of Freedom Sea. As you redeemed Israel and saved us from arms stronger than our own, so may you redeem all those who are still oppressed and persecuted. We praise you, Eternal One, Redeemer of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Page 45. When we lay down at night to go to sleep, we ask God's protection. We pray that we will wake up in the morning to renewed life and strength. page 47, reading Bet. Why do we say our God and the God of our ancestors? There are two sorts of believers, one from whom faith has been handed down from our ancestors. The other has arrived at faith through searching and contemplation. In the first instance, faith cannot be shaken no matter how many objections are raised to it. But there is a flaw in this. Faith is passed on from generation to generation as part of our tradition. And so it may have been learned without thought or reasoning. The advantage of the second is that faith is reached through its own power, through much searching and thinking, but this faith also has a flaw. It is possible to shake it by offering contrary evidence. But the one who combines both kinds of faith is invulnerable, and that is why we say our God because of our searching, and the God of our generations, our ancestors, because of our tradition. As we move into the center of our service, the words of the Amidah, we hold both of those thoughts in our minds and hearts. Chatzi Kaddish begins on page 49.
Yitgadol v'yitgadosh Shmei Rabbah, Amen. Be'amad yivarach chirutei v'yamlich malchutai. B'chai echon uv'yom echon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Bagala uv'yizman karim v'yimeru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam olam ne'almaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei d'kodesho berichu le'elam min kol berchata v'shirata Tush bechata v'nechemata da'miran be'alma v'yimeru. Amen.
We rise in body or in spirit for the words of the Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tiftachu v'yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imoteinu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yisrael, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol V'zocher chastei avot v'imot, u'mei gula livnei bneihem leman shemo ve'ahava. Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai magen Avraham, v'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor elam Adonai, mechayei hakol atah, Rav L'Hoshia. Mechalkel chaim b'chesed, mechayei hakol b'rachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofeh cholim, u'matir asurim, u'mkayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, u'mido melech, melech b'mitum chayei, u'matzmiach Yeshua. ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בך יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Yismechu v'malchutcha shomrei Shabbat. Those who keep Shabbat and call it a delight shall rejoice. Page 53.
ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת בקורא עונג שבת ישמחו ומלכותך שומרי 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 שבת בקורא עונג שבת מקודשי שבי שבת כולם ישמחו ויתענגו מכוחך שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת בקורא עונג שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת בקורא עונג שבת והשביעי רצית בו וקירשת שבת חינדר ימים אותו קראת שבת ישמחו את מלכותך שומרי 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 שבת בקורא עונג שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת בקורא עונג שבת זכר למעשה בראשית שבת זכר למעשה בראשית שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת בקורא עונג שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת בקורא עונג שבת
Page 57, the words of Ritzeh, the words of the Avodah prayer, asking God to listen to our prayers.
Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu le'amcha Yisrael u'tefilata be'ahava tekabel Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shechinoto le'tzion שפוך רוחך עלינו ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון המחזיר שכינתו לציון.
And words of Hoda'ah, words of thanksgiving, page 60. We gratefully acknowledge, eternal God, that you are our creator and our preserver, the rock of our life and our protecting shield. We give thanks to you for our lives which are in your hands, for our souls which are in your keeping, for your wondrous providence and your continuous goodness which you bestow upon us day by day. Truly your mercies never fail and your love and kindness never cease. Therefore do we put our trust in you. God, our Redeemer and our Helper, let all who live affirm and praise your name in truth. Eternal God, whose name is goodness, we give you thanks and praise. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha, ulcha na'eh lehodot. Page 63 brings us to the words of Shalom Rav, great peace. May God grant great peace to us.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. V'tov beinecha levorech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim
We take a few moments to pray the words of our own hearts in prayer. Page 65.
יהיו לרצונים רפים רפי והגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצונים רפים רפי והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. יהיו לרצונים רפים רפי והגיון ליבי לפניך.
prior to our beginning the words of the Amidah, this Erev Shabbat, this Shabbat service, on page 47, and during the morning service on page 105 is a beautiful teachings by the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov asks, why do we speak about our God and the God of our ancestors? He writes about arriving at faith through searching and contemplation, or having arrived at faith because it's passed down from generation to generation. And he writes about how having both of those kinds of faith is really essential for understanding, for connecting not only with our ancestors, but with the divine presence in the world. It's a question that many have asked, the question of blind faith. Is faith really blind? Is commitment to God supposed to be a leap of faith? Or does Judaism really embrace reason and cognition? And this week's Parsha, Mishpatim, ends with one of the most famous declarations ever stated by the Jewish people. In Exodus 24, verse 6, it says, Vayikach sefer habrit vayikra be'oznei ha'am vayurmu kol asher diber Adonai na'aseh v'nishma. Then Moses took the record of the Brit, the covenant, and read it be'oznei ha'am, into the ears of the people, read it aloud to the people. And they said, all that Adonai has spoken, na'aseh v'nishma, we will do it and we will hear it. Rabbi Simlai drashes on this. He remarks upon this in Talmud Tractate Shabbat. He says, when the Israelites gave precedence to na'aseh, we will do, over v'nishma, we will hear, 600,000 ministering angels came and set 2 crowns upon each person in Israel, one as a reward for na'aseh, we will do, and the other as a reward for nishma, we will hear. A heavenly voice, a bat kol, went forth and said, who revealed to my children the secret which is employed by the ministering angels? Now, the text there is assuming that the statement na'aseh v'nishma is made prior to the revelation at Mount Sinai, before Israel has heard God speak. And na'aseh v'nishma, that we said we will do it, and in the doing we will hear it, or we will, as it's sometimes translated, in the doing we will come to the understanding of it. Well before they had heard the context of what it was that God was giving to our people. And Rabbi Simlai is looking at this as a mark of deep commitment. So deep were the Israelite ancestors' commitments that they said, we will take this on without even knowing all that was required. And here, the voice, the bat kol, says, who revealed to my children the secret? Because this is a secret only known to the ministering angels. In other words, that's something that only holy angelic creatures could really have the koach, the strength to make a commitment to. So we have to wonder, is this a virtue? Is it good to comply without even hearing what the task is? We might do that certainly for someone that we have a great commitment to, a spouse or a partner, a child, to parents. And then we might also think from a rational standpoint, maybe that's dangerous. On the other hand, there is another understanding of this text. And if we look at what it says just before this in Exodus 24, verses 3 to this point, it says, Moses went and repeated to the people all the commands of Adonai and the rules, and all the people answered with one voice, saying, all the things that God has commanded we will do. And Moses then wrote down all the commandments of Adonai. Early in the morning, he set up an altar at the foot of the mountain with 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel. Moses designated some young men among the Israelites. They offered burnt offerings and sacrificed bulls as offerings of well-being. And Moses took one part of the blood and put it in basins, and the other part he dashed against the altar. And then he took the record of the covenant and read it aloud to the people. And this is where it says, Na'aseh v'nishma, all that God has spoken we will do and we will hear. And here the understanding is that this account is really that the people absolutely did hear the law. They did hear the Brit, the commandments, prior to making the statement of Na'aseh v'nishma. That this is, in a sense, it's a covenantal ceremony in which the Israelites express commitment to God's Torah. But Moses is taking every step to make sure that they are fully informed. First, Moses tells them, and after that, they express initial acceptance. And then Moses documents the laws in a scroll and creates this covenant ceremony, this Brit ceremony. And it's at this occasion that our people said, Na'aseh v'nishma. There are a lot of different interpretations about what's going on here. Rashi agrees with that interpretation. He says this section was spoken, Rashi agrees with the statement that they said, Na'aseh, we will do it before understanding. He says this section was spoken before the Ten Commandments were given. Rashbam says, no, I think that it actually is that we will carry out what God has already said. We're also prepared to listen, to obey what God will ask of us from here on in. And similarly, Ibn Ezra says, we'll do all that's been written, and we will hearken, we will shema, we will listen to, nishma, right? Nishma is the same root of the word that we have in the first word of the Shema, the declaration of faith, Hear, O Israel. And we will hearken to observe them always. So for Rashbam and Ibn Ezra, the people are making an informed choice. First, they had met God and experienced God at Mount Sinai. Next, they listened to the laws that Moses had been dictated by God and conveyed them to the people, and they comprehended what was expected of them. And now they're stating in this statement, Na'aseh v'nishma, their agreement. They're saying, okay, we'll take on these obligations and we will trust God's commitments for the future, things that might be imposed going forward. There are some other divergent opinions on this as well. Sforno says Na'aseh v'nishma is a reference to action designed to ensure that they would obey future directives without thought of any reward that might be in store for them. In other words, Na'aseh v'nishma is really just saying, yes, we'll do this for the sake of the relationship that we have, for the Brit that we have. It's not because we're expecting some sort of great reward for it. And later on in the Talmud in Kiddushin, Rabbi Tarfon asks the question, is learning greater or deed greater? And he answers, deed, doing is greater. Rabbi Eliezer responds and says, learning is greater. There's very often a lot of debate in the Talmud. One side says one thing, the other says the other thing, and then someone else responds to both of them and says, learning is greater because learning leads to deed. That idea might be familiar to you. In some ways, part of our morning liturgy, we read in the Mishnah, Elu Devarim She'en Lahem Shiur, that these are the actions without number because their reward is without measure. So that it's in the doing that we come to understanding. It's the actions that lead us to greater reward in a sense, but not, we don't do it because we expect a reward, but in the doing of it, we come to a greater appreciation, and that itself is a reward, greater connection as well. And the word mitzvah, commandment, can also be translated as obligation, or if we look at it in the Aramaic understanding of the word. Aramaic is a very close cognate of Hebrew, of course, and it was the vernacular language spoken in the first century in the time of the Talmud. If we read the word mitzvah in Aramaic, what it really means is a link, a connection. So that na'aseh, that doing, is what provides that link, that connection to us, to God, to our greater community. And that's what mitzvot, that's what following these mitzvot, these commandments, are really all about. And in fact, the Kiddushat Levi, who is a much later commentator in the in the tradition says, when we examine the meaning of the word mitzvah, which is commonly translated as commandment, it's quite inadequate. The deeper meaning of the word comes from a word describing companionship. In other words, the performance of a mitzvah is meant to establish companionship, relationship between a person and God. So there are strengths to all of these different approaches. You know, many of us like the idea that Rashbam says, we'll carry out what God has said already, and then we're also prepared to listen to what God will ask of us from here on in. You know, many of us want to know what we're getting ourselves into before we do something. You might be one of those people that wants to watch the trailer of the film before you go to the movie, before you see it. You might read the reviews of the play before you attend it, or look around for lots of reviews before you purchase something. And Rashbam's understanding here is God respects Israel and wants us to make an informed commitment within a state of understanding. And on the other hand, we have the flip side, right? We have a commitment when we take on Ol Malchut Shemayim, the yoke of the mitzvot, and that our acceptance of that, our commitment to the Brit, to following the mitzvot, says, Na'aseh v'nishma. You know, we don't necessarily identify with every one of the mitzvot. We may have struggles with them. We might have some of them that we really cherish and that are very meaningful, and others that we struggle with. But our sense of obligation, our sense of commitment, really our link, our connection, is sometimes what comes before that rational understanding. So I think both of these readings are part of what it means to be who we are as Jews. It's part of Judaism. That's a hybrid of both what the Baal Shem Tov was talking about, faith handed down from our ancestors and faith given to us through our own searching and contemplation. And that's really part of the beautiful tapestry of what it means to be part of this Brit with God, this Brit with community, this Brit with Torah. Shabbat Shalom. We turn our thoughts now to those in our families and our communities who are in need of healing on this Shabbat. And as we think of them, we turn in our Siddur to page 133 as we pray words asking for blessings of strength and comfort. Here at Solel on this Shabbat, we are thinking of the following especially: Shirley Herman, Esther Vuchenmark, Rick Valentine, Simon Green, Marlene Friedman, Linda Levenheck, Jack Kudlatz, Francis Van Tyne, Suzanne Scher-Stimson, Bernie McLennan, Harriet Lockman, Jill Rich, Ellen Becker, Nicola Proetti, Eliyahu Ben Yitzhak Vasara, Rebecca Bodbil, Parker Kaiko, Philip Shepard, Carl Katz, Nicole Hansen, Raina Rowan, Gila Naruzi, Rob Green, Madeline Kitson, Kathy Kitson, Sharon Burr, Jerry Willis, Dee Hickey, James Gaona, Lorraine DaCosta, Dr. Jack Richmond, Nettie Sandelovici, Adela Tsur, Barbara Dean, Al Lofsky, and Michael Freeman. And invite you to speak aloud the names of those for whom you are praying, or to hold those names in your heart as we sing this prayer together.
Mishabeirach Avotenu, Mikor Bracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishabeirach Imotenu, Mekor Bracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Please join me on page 149. As we rise physically or spiritually, we pray the words of Aleinu, praying that the day may come soon when the world will be one and at peace.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, lateit gdula leyotzeh bereshit, asher samchel kenu liachid et shemo, v'gor aleinu leamlich malchuto, v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, ואלוהינו אין עוד. אמת מלכנו אפס ומתו, כגודלו בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבת אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Page 154. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the candles of Shabbat, life is kindled, burns, and glows. It is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our lives are full, but as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down in gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die, for we move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. At this time our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those of our friends and neighbors, and all those people whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We recall the names of two who died just in the past week. Adam Davis, the son of former Solelnik Bernie Davis and the late Katie, brother to Rachel and Louie. And Riva Heisman, the wife of Gerald, and the mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. We are in Shloshim, the first 30 days of mourning at this time for Ada Luzia, the sister of Judith Tamari, and for Renee Marmorio, the brother-in-law of Leo and Carol Van Tyne, the husband of Janice, the uncle of Lisa, Michael, and Rachel, and for Takashi Maruyama, the father of Noriko Botnick and her sister Minako, and the father-in-law of Ian, and grandfather of Veronica and Olivia. We recall as well the following whose yahrzeit, the anniversary of whose death occurs this week: Madeline Weisberg, the mother of Joseph; Pearl Weinman, the mother of James, and the grandmother of Michael and Sarah; Emmanuel Snell, the father of Victor, the grandfather of Tamara, Rebecca, and Simcha, and the great-grandfather of Jonathan, Gordon, Vivian, Owen, and Filippo; Bernard Scheer, the father of Suzanne Scheer-Stimson; Max Haller, the father-in-law of Leah, father of the late Willie, and the grandfather of Vivian, Matthew, Joshua, and Ethan; William Buckler, the father of Karen Allen and Jim Buckler, and the grandfather of Brian, Daniel, Lauren, Sarah, Melanie, and Michael;
Hannah Levy, the great aunt of Robin Beer. John Arden Myers, the father of Lori Levy. Maria Slazlarska, the mother of Paulina Federosta, the grandmother of Eitan and Michael, and the great-grandmother of Owen, Noam, and Aviv. Mike Wiersba, the husband of Lila, the father of Ralph, of Rabbi Ellen Nemhauser, of Karen, and brother of Sam. Rita Farah, the grandmother of Susan Dean Norton and Dennis Norton, and the great-grandmother of Jordan. Lottie Feynman, the mother of Barry, and the grandmother of Daniel and Simon. Elmer Farkas, the father of Linda Hannon, husband of the late Ada, father-in-law of Jerry, and the grandfather of Jonathan, Christine, Michael, and Vanessa, the great-grandfather of Reese, Lucy, Clark, Harrison, and Max. Sharon Singer, the aunt of Adam and Heather Powell, and the great-aunt of Ben, Samson, and Canaan. Patty Curry, the wife of Bill and the mother of Ethan. Mary Quint, the grandmother of Marcy Binsky. And Honey Hertz, the cousin of Arlene Botnick and Harold and Susie Botnick. At this time, if you are saying Kaddish for someone, I invite you to speak their name aloud or to hold their name in your heart. As we ask those who are mourning to please rise first. And we say to Min Hamakom Tinachamu, may you find comfort in God's sheltering presence. Now as a community, we all rise to support those who are mourning and to say Kaddish for those who have no one to say it for them. Page 159. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvyzman kar'i v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'alam ulam ne'almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudashah b'richu, le'elam in kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol b'nei adam v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all those who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, among all Israel, and among all the nations and families of earth. And we say together, amen. If you are standing, you're invited to be seated. And I want to share announcements on behalf of our board and our congregation. First of all, we want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. We're so glad that you are joining us for our Shabbat service this evening. We invite you to join us tomorrow morning, Saturday, the 29th of January at 10 a.m. Tomorrow morning, we'll be having a family Shabbat service, so we hope you'll come along with your family and join us for that. Next Shabbat, Friday the 4th of February, at 8 p.m. is our regular Erev Shabbat service, and Saturday the 5th at 10 a.m., a regular Shabbat morning service. Our thank you as well to Joel Brown, our tech volunteer, bringing the live stream to you this Shabbat. Couple of other upcoming events and notices. Beit Sefer parents, students, and teachers, all of our classes are continuing online. You should have the Zoom links by now. If you haven't got those, please contact Arlene or the office. Thursday lunch continues on Zoom on Thursdays. Rabbi Englander's class on the books of Joshua and Judges is continuing through February 27th. And that is at 10 o'clock on Sundays on Zoom. Again, the Zoom link for that is in the Shamus and the Solel Weekly. We invite you also to join us on the 1st of February at noon at lunchtime for our cross-congregational reading group with our sister congregation Darchei Noam in Ramat HaSharon. We're discussing the book The Wandering Jew, Israel and the Search for Jewish Identity. Don't worry if you missed the first session, just jump in and join us for the second and following sessions. That's on February the 1st at noon. Speaking of books,
Solel's book club, the next book review, is going to be the 14th of March. That gives you a good amount of time to read Rachel's Legacy by Julie Thomas. And we have a couple of upcoming Lunch and Learn programs with Rabbi Jordan Cohen from Anshe Shalom. We're going to join with Anshe Shalom for a two-part series explaining the birth of Zionism and its historical significance. That's going to be on Tuesdays, February 15th and 22nd at 11:30 a.m. As well, we hope you mark your calendar to be with us on Wednesday, the 16th of February at 7:30 p.m. for our series on 50 years of women rabbis, sponsored by Women of Solel. That session will be with the first female rabbi, Rabbi Sally Presand, who will be speaking on reflections on her life as a rabbi, followed by Q&A. Lots more happening. We invite you to check out the website and our social media, as well as check out the reminders every week and in your shamas for upcoming events, programs, and services, and we hope that you will choose to join us for some, if not all of those. As we close our service this evening, I invite you to raise a glass and join with me as we make Kiddush for Erev Shabbat. Page 163. Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Boker, Yom HaShishi. Now the whole universe, sky, earth, and all their array was completed. With the seventh day, God had ended the work of creation and rested with all work completed. Then God blessed the seventh day and called it holy, for with this day God had completed the work of creation.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'ma'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
L'chaim. We wish you Shabbat Shalom. May it be a day of peace, of rest, and joy. We hope that you stay healthy and safe, and we wish you a wonderful Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.